let's get started. Really excited again to have CiCi here with us. Most of you guys know has a great tennis story from a junior career, amazing junior career, winning 5 national championships, including at 14s, winning the 18s hard courts, which gives you a wild card to the US Open, where she had an amazing breakthrough in her first Grand Slam, getting to the third round, knocking off the 12th seed in the process. And she was only 14. Is it 14?
15.
15?
You can say I was 14 if you want.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just know that you were like the youngest one to win the 18 since like Lindsay Davenport, and the youngest one to win a major since Anna Kournikova. So we could say we're 12. Doesn't matter. Still amazing. And then since then, she's had a great professional career, getting as high as 35 in the world. She's got to the third round of 3 different Grand Slams. The other thing that we're going to talk about today is the big obstacle that she's had to deal with is multiple injuries with her wrist and her arm, and overcoming that. And which fast forward to now the last Australian Open, she didn't play Grand Slam since 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong. You had an injury protection ranking. At the moment, not many people were expecting a lot out of you. And then once again, you come back, you knock off a seed, you get to the third round of an Australian Open in your first Grand Slam in 2 years almost. So that's just incredible. And somebody that I can just tell you guys is one of the most resilient young people, or resilient people that you can meet. So there's so much for you to learn today. So CiCi, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you guys and be here for sure.
So let's start with a little bit about your junior career. A few different people kind of wanted to know. Jasmine Taylor kind of asked, what is your first tennis memories? How did you get into tennis?
Oh, that's a great question. So I remember when I was younger, I played my first tournament when I was 7. And I definitely remember like my first match, my second match. And I think I hit my first tennis ball when I was 4 or 5. And I don't remember too much of that, but I definitely remember playing my first tournament.
Wow. Does somebody like your tennis family, like who got you to tennis?
Yeah, my mom played as a junior, and she was a really good junior. And then she kind of got me started when I was younger.
Nice. And did you play any other sports?
Yeah, I did pretty much everything when I was younger. And then as I got older, I kind of narrowed it down to tennis and soccer. And then when I was about maybe 10 or 11, I chose tennis over soccer.
It sounds those big years of like 8 to 10,
Yeah.
Which sport are you going to go to?
Exactly.
So, at what age did you start taking tennis seriously? As you know, like how I believe you were homeschooled.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when did you decide to go homeschool, and what was that decision like?
Yeah, I became homeschooled when I was, I think, 12 or 13. And it was pretty much because I was playing a tournament, every weekend, and it would start either on Thursday or Friday of that week. And my teachers were basically like, you can't keep missing half the week each week. And so I decided, tennis to me at that point was super important. So decided to become homeschooled, and definitely paid off, I think.
At that age, maybe you remember, maybe you don't, but you were obviously a successful tennis player and winning a lot of tournaments. What was your work ethic then? Because I know you have a great work ethic. Was that always engraved in you, or did somebody teach it to you? What were you like at 10, 11, 12?
Yeah, my parents definitely kind of engraved that in me since I was really young. And then it kind of became more on my own starting when I was probably 15.
Okay. And do you have a favorite, like a tournament that you won in your junior career? Is there a favorite moment or couple favorite moments that gave you confidence, I should say, as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of my favorite tournaments was Easter Bowl, for sure. I missed that one so much. The last year that I played it, they moved it to the Indian Wells site. So that was super cool. Love that tournament. I love hard courts. I think winning hard courts 18s was a huge moment for me. And then playing the US Open, that was a huge summer for sure.
Did you go into the tournament thinking you were going to win? Like, what was your mindset? like?
I think I was seeded in the top 4, I would say, but the seeds ahead of me were very, very good players. A bit older than me, at least a couple years older than me, and they were, very accomplished, and I knew they were very good. I'd played them in the past and lost to them. And, I had a lot of respect for them. So I definitely didn't, go in thinking that, this is easy, I'm going to win this tournament for sure. I don't think I've ever gone into a tournament like that. But, I was definitely a high seed, but, I wanted to do well. Yeah. No huge expectations.
How similar was your match routine than preparation to now?
It's a little different, especially, in the weeks coming up to the tournaments, just prior. I'd say it's a bit different now. And back then I didn't really even do fitness. So it's a lot different in that regard. But I have a lot more, experience now with pre-match routines and warm-up. So it's definitely a lot more solid now.
So I guess I'm going to fast forward for a second because Kayla Chung wanted to know what is your pre-match routine, especially like a mental prep that you do.
Oh, that's a great question. So my coach, Tom, he watches a lot of video of my opponent before the match, and we have, a pretty long discussion about it before I play and like what how I should play, how I should use my strengths to, exploit some of their weaknesses. And mentally, I like visualizing a lot. I work with our mental coach here, Larry, a lot. And we do a lot of work on that. And I just try and be, super calm mentally, not too frazzled or thinking about too many other things before I play.
Nice. Well, we have to give a shout out to Tom because a lot of people on this call know Tom. Tom Guttridge, your coach, and he's a good friend of mine and has done a great job with you. So I wanted to give him a shout out. And then Larry's going to be actually joining us next week.
Oh, really?
On the talk.
Is Craig going to be joining you too?
And Craig, well, you're just like going. Craig is joining us. We're working on either actually Thursday or Friday. He's going to be joining us. Is there anything you want to mention about it? Tell us a little bit about Craig. Give us a little preview.
Oh my gosh, he is one of Tom and I's favorite people ever. We love Craig. I still work with him a lot. He was pretty much my full-time fitness trainer when I was going through all the injuries that I had, and he was literally there for me every single day. Like I worked with him for a year and a half straight when I was hurt. So he's such a big part of my tennis and my life for sure. I love Craig. He's the best.
Oh, that's great. Well, everyone here now, you guys have to come check out that one as well.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's going to be so happy that I mentioned him too. Oh my God.
That's great. Cool. Well, let's transition a little bit to now to the pro world and that US Open. And again, just having amazing success at 15 years old. I remember watching you on TV and watching your interviews, and you were like a sniper. Like, everybody wanted like to kind of get you to be like, oh, this is so amazing. You're like, I'm here to win every match. I'm grateful, and I appreciate every moment, but I can win every match. And I'm here like, wow, this girl is serious. So what was that like for you? Did you enjoy the attention? Did you not enjoy the attention? What was that feeling like at 15?
Yeah, it was super crazy. It was a bit much for me, especially, at the time I'd never really played a pro tournament before that. I played like 1 or 2 10Ks before that. And so I didn't really have any experience playing pro tournaments. So it was obviously such a crazy moment and a really good like jumping off point for my career. But it was a lot looking back to have that on me being that young and going through, a lot of different kind of press things after matches. And it really made me learn about, choosing which things to accept after matches and stuff like that for the future. So it was good in that sense too.
Was there, I mean, I'm sure your agent was there and your parents, how much were they at that age? Like, you're going to say this or you're going to say that, or were they like, go talk about whatever you feel like?
I mean, my agents never really had to tell me, say this or say that, obviously little things here and there that come up that I should be informed about. He'll definitely tell me. But yeah, it's really just me talking in the interviews, and he usually just tells me to slow down when I'm talking. But that's pretty much it.
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Cool. And so now, after that, you have success. Then how was that transition from juniors to pros? As far as, I guess I want to ask, we have a few different people asking. So how was it, like, tennis wise? How was it mentally? How was it physically? Like, how was the overall transition, similar or different than what you expected to be?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was physically. Like I said, when I was 15, I didn't even do fitness. At the time, I hadn't even started it. So that was a
Don't tell
huge
these guys. Now they're all
I
going to
know.
think that they're all going to
But
think that they
looking back,
can
that
wait.
was such a big mistake, guys. You need to do fitness. And so I came to Florida to train at the USTA when I was full-time when I was 16 or 17. And that's when I really started ramping up my fitness and, had a fitness trainer that was working really hard with me. So that's what really helped me kind of transferring from juniors to pros. The physical side was definitely the hardest for me because I'm not the biggest person ever. And a lot of the girls on tour are, big servers, big hitters. So that was the biggest thing for me, for sure.
Can you specifically explain, let's say for most of the people here around like 12 to 16, what exactly physically, when you do the fitness, how does it help you? Like, where do you everybody says, I feel stronger, but can you find a way to be more specific about that?
Yeah. So the thing that I work a lot on is lifting because, I definitely need to have a strong base when I'm on the court to handle the pros' power, and having strong legs and a strong base to stay low and, just kind of absorb their power is huge. And it's great for, long matches and outlasting players. And that's the biggest thing, I think.
Nice. So you're a couple years on the tour. I think you got, at that time, pretty good 6 ITF singles, 2 doubles. You won in Hawaii, WTA. How was that, actually, winning the Hawaii tournament?
Oh, that was awesome. Hawaii is like my favorite place ever too. So it was amazing that my first WTA title was there, for sure.
And so you're cruising. I shouldn't say cruising, but you're gaining momentum. You're still super young. It's crazy that you just turned 21, right, in April.
Yeah.
So you're still really young, and now all of a sudden you feel some pain in your elbow and wrists. Do you want to talk a little bit about what happened with your injuries and how it affected you?
Yeah. So kind of starting from the beginning, I started feeling pain in my wrist when I was 17, actually. And I didn't do anything about it until I was 18. And I had a lot of, misdiagnoses and, people telling me that it was something that it definitely wasn't. And I ended up, seeing this doctor that I ended up getting the surgery with, who was incredible. He's at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And he's done like Del Potro, Madison Keys, every, tennis pro that has had wrist problems, he's pretty much worked on. So he's incredible. And he found, the 3 tears that I had. He found out that the one bone in my arm was too long and it was causing all the tears and, everything else pretty much that I had. So I ended up getting first a surgery to just repair the tears in my wrist because he wanted to see if that would, end up resolving the pain that I had without having to shorten my bone at first, because that was a really long and hard procedure. And so I got that, went back on court, and my elbow was bothering me too. And I started feeling my elbow earlier that year, but it definitely wasn't as long as my wrist. And so I got, scans on my elbow, and I went to a doctor at the same place in Minnesota, an elbow doctor, one of my wrist doctor's colleagues who he recommended. And the elbow guy found 2 bone spurs in my elbow, and one of them was fractured. And so every time I was straightening my arm, my elbow was fracturing more and more. So it was terrible. He removed those. That was super easy. And then you
just downplayed that very easily. I just had surgery. He just removed those bones.
I became numb to it at that point because I was just like, oh my gosh, let's just go in for another one. Like, how could this many things be happening to me? Wow. And then, I tried hitting again. My wrist was still hurting. So we ended up having to shorten my bone, and then he had to basically cut my bone in half and shorten it and then put a plate in to hold the bones back together. And then 6 months later, the plate was causing me horrible, horrible pain when I started hitting again. And every time I would like hit, I would, my wrist where the plate was would swell like 2 inches out of my arm. So
how big is this plate? Like, how big was this
so like
plate?
My scar, you can see my scars. That's how long the plate was.
Wow.
And it was like this thick. And my doctor had said, he was like, this is probably not going to be compatible with your arm. So
wow.
We knew that going in. But I'm good now.
So
I'm all good.
in total, you've had 4 surgeries? How many surgeries?
Mm-hmm.
4 surgeries. Incredible. And I know there's a great piece on you on Tennis Channel that I hope everyone checks out. But in it, you talked about one of the doctors told you that you're never playing tennis again, right?
Yeah, that was actually after all the 4 surgeries. And Tom had already come down here and we were training and we were getting ready for my first tournament. And I was still having a bit of pain in my elbow. And I went to the Mayo Clinic, but in Jacksonville here, because we didn't want to fly all the way back up to Rochester when it was something, we thought was minor. And that doctor said that I had something with my elbow that was totally career ending and I wouldn't, be able to play again. And he said that before I even had any scans on it or anything. So it was definitely really, really traumatic. And I feel bad Tom had to be with me there because that was one of the worst days ever. But it turned out to be something a little less minor that just some strengthening healed, which is good.
I can't imagine that situation. Yeah. So I'm glad you didn't listen to that guy.
Yeah.
So, wow. And through this all, how does somebody remain confident? How does somebody remain mentally stable? Because a lot of feedback that I've gotten, it's been with the corona, it's very difficult. People can't do anything, but you literally couldn't do anything. People can do different exercises, but what did you do to stay sane or to make sure that you're still working on different areas of your game, or if you did?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying about Craig earlier, I literally did fitness every single day, obviously besides days off, but every day that I was, during that year and a half time span. And each time I had surgery, I had to do rehab right away to get, my strength and mobility back in my wrist. And so basically I was on like a cycle of surgery, rehab, fitness, recovery stuff. And then I would get back on the court hoping that it would be fine. And it wouldn't be until the last time, but I was kind of in that kind of cycle where I was still training in a way, just fitness. And that's, I'm lucky right now because we have courts that are nearby that are open. But, I think fitness is a huge thing for you guys that you can work on. And even if you aren't, don't have access to a gym, you can do things in your house and work on like your core and different strengthening stuff. So I think that would be the biggest thing that would help me stay sane right now if I didn't have tennis or fitness. And then obviously working on mental things. I've talked to the mental coach at USTA, Larry, once a week during this time. So he's been awesome, at least once a week, sometimes twice a week.
So are we allowed to get some like inside secrets? What are those conversations like? I guess let's go back then, not now. We don't need to know now. But is there doubting? Are you doubting yourself? Is there why me? Should I still be playing? How do you remain confident through that process? During the injuries? Yeah.
There was a lot of kind of down moments where I was considering stopping because the surgeries just sounded really crazy. But I mean, the team that I have around me here was so positive and helped me so much during that time, mentally, physically, and they kept pushing me to keep doing it. And obviously, my family and the people around me were here too, so they were huge too.
Nice. And I guess right now, I would say, I guess not right now, but before Corona happened, on an average day when you're healthy or average week, what does your training usually look like? Like, do you train in the morning, afternoon? how much is fitness, how much is mental training,
Mhm.
total hours in the week, just trying to get everybody always wants to know what pro players are doing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is
So basically I usually start my day, I wake up and go to the center to do like a long warm up for my arm. I'd say about an hour, and then I do a warm up for the rest of my body, probably another 30 minutes. Sometimes it involves fitness. Sometimes it could be an hour warm up. And then I practice for at least 2 hours, have lunch, practice again for another 2 hours. And then usually like a lift or a agility or cardio session for fitness. That's probably around an hour and a half. And then I do rehab, which is about an hour, and then recovery, which is probably another 30 minutes to an hour. And then if I have mental training that day with Larry, that's another 45 minutes at least for sure. And then a lot of times we watch videos with one of our video guys here. So that's usually on the lunch break, but that's probably around an hour too.
I couldn't do the math that fast. So how many hours is that in the day? I'm like, need a calculator here.
So I'd say fitness, if we include the warm-up, is 2 hours a day, practice 4 hours a day, and then rehab an hour a day, recovery 30 minutes to an hour, Larry probably about an hour, and then if we watch videos, about an hour. It's not all in one day. Sometimes the videos and Larry, those we usually don't have those on the same day. But yeah.
So you're doing at least like 6 to 8 hours every single day. Every single day. What happens the days you wake up and you're like, I don't want to do this today? What's your inner voice where you're like, I'm sore or
exhausted?
Yeah. How do you push through?
I've never really let myself give in to that, and Tom can definitely back me up here, and he's never been like that either, for sure. But we've never really had a day where I just texted him and I was like, I'm too tired, I don't want to practice right now. I think if anyone has those days, it's so important to push through and just to keep going, because it's going to pay off so much.
No, that's really well said. By the way, that earlier question I asked you was from Nicole with Sovi, so I want to give Nicole a shout out before. Nice. Let me look at, so I guess I'll go a couple more questions and we'll go into the Q&A. Going back into the Australian Open, a lot of the things players would talk about is handling nerves. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because in all your interviews, you always say you are nervous, but you never see it. So like when you're playing, you never see it. So how do you handle pressure? How do you handle the situation? Do you have a tough situation? Like, I guess I'm getting personal now that you talked to Dr. Lauer and you have either tough closing out the matches or starting the match. Is there anything that you have worked on or something that you're naturally good at as well?
I think playing, my first tournaments coming back, like in Australia, this has been probably the toughest time in my career, just coming back from not playing matches for, 2 years. And Tom and I have definitely had some hurdles that we've had to, jump through for that. And even, I play a million practice matches before we go to tournaments, and it's just not the same as playing a tournament match, in front of so many people. And so it's definitely nerve-wracking. And in Australia, I was definitely nervous for each match that I played. I just tried to keep as composed as I could because, obviously I was enjoying it so much that I was able to play again. But yeah, I think it was super tough for me to start the matches and calm my nerves for sure. And then it would get better as the matches went on. But now we're in Corona, so I think it's going to happen again. But hopefully I can get some more matches in before we start, I guess whatever the rest of the season is.
Yeah. And you've been able to play a little bit, right?
I'm hitting every day.
That's good. That's good. So when everything goes back to normal, which every day there's different information, what are some of your goals going into this year? Obviously being healthy is number one. Are you a big outcome goal, or do you look at process goals? What gets you going? Yeah,
we're Tom and I and my team, we're a huge process team. We don't really look at outcome, just mainly staying healthy. And we just want to get as many matches as we can in to get me used to playing matches again. Because even in Australia, that wasn't even enough for me to, be used to it again after being off for so long. So that's our number one goal. And we're improving every day. So that's huge. And we're just trying to get, my ranking back up to where it was and higher than it was before. So that's where we're at.
Nice. Is there any part of your game that that you look at when you're watching those videos? So you've talked about like Tom is watching the opponent. When you're watching, are you thinking about your game making adjustments, or are you more thinking like look at their game and making adjustments to their game? Like what percent is your game regardless who you're playing?
So Tom's pretty much the one that looks at the videos. I don't usually look at videos of my opponent before I play them, but he, kind of gives me the information in a way that it's centered around me. And he basically says things like, oh yeah, use your forehand in this way, or, serve here and use this pattern that we have, or things like that. So it's mainly focused on me and just kind of using patterns that we practice every day.
Nice. I got a question here for you. Do you have any siblings?
No, I don't.
And the second question is, what's the dynamic within your family and the roles your parents have played in your tennis development?
Yeah, I mean, they were huge, when I was younger, and they still do a lot for me right now, but they're not as involved for sure as when I was really young. And, when they used to travel with me to tournaments and stuff, they don't usually travel anymore unless it's big tournaments like slams or something like that. But they were huge when I was starting and up until a couple of years ago for sure.
Nice.
And still are, but less involved now. I said and still are, but less involved now.
Yeah. Do you feel that your parents have done a really good job of managing like the off-court you and the on-court you?
Yeah, I do. I think that's an important, kind of role to deal with. And it's definitely something that needs to, be separated for sure. And I think they did a good job. Yeah.
Nice. Well, my last question for you, then, if it's okay, we'll go into the Q&A. Is I know you started doing some online college.
Yeah.
How is that going?
It's great. Thanks. I just finished my semester about a week ago, so I have a little bit of time before my summer classes start. It's going really well.
You have some summer classes. They don't let you off, huh?
No.
Do you have any idea which major you want to go into?
I'm a business major, yeah.
Business, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. So then we'll be looking for some product lines from you coming soon. I like
it.
Awesome. So let's go into some questions. Samil Patel wanted to know, which tennis players do you admire the most and why?
Oh, that's a great question. I think my favorite male tennis player is Djokovic. I just love his game, and I think his mindset is incredible. The way he, just pulls out matches and the way he is on court. I think he's definitely one of my favorites. Women's, I think my favorite player of all time was Kim Clijsters. I loved her game, loved her mindset too, and I thought she was incredible.
It's another two resilient players you got there.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of the Djokovic live on Instagram?
I haven't. No, I want to log on to one though. I heard they're good.
They're really good. He's got a second career. He's got some good guests, and he's asking some tough questions.
I saw the Federer and Nadal one. I thought that was really funny too.
Yeah, that one's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I could go Roger. What are your so since you said Djokovic, most people like Roger and Rafa, right? Mm-hmm. What in your mind? Now I'm sure that you admire them as well, but what do you see in Djokovic that like really gets to you?
I think he's extremely mentally strong, and obviously Nadal and Federer have incredible mental strength, and I really, really enjoy watching them play too, and they're definitely some of my favorite players. But I think I like watching Djokovic a bit more. I think I would root for him if I was watching him play one of the other two, just because I really like his game. I like the way he plays, and I think he's evolved so much as a player, even in the last few years, mentally too. So, I just really enjoy watching him play. I think at his best, I think he would beat Federer or Nadal at their best. I know that's a big statement, but I think it's true.
You say you're going to take Djokovic on clay? On clay.
Oh, on hard.
Versus Rafa.
I would take Djokovic on hard at his best over Rafa on hard at his best. I would take Rafa over Djokovic on clay at their best.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Bold. That's a bold statement. I respect that a lot. No, that's good. I think he is amazing as well, and his work ethic is great.
Yeah.
I think you've answered this a little bit, but how I guess she wanted to know when you started playing, did you think you were going to be big? Like, did you shoot for the moon at young age?
No, no, I didn't. I was just playing for fun for a really long time, and obviously I still am. But I was planning on going to college until I turned pro when I was 17. So I definitely always had that in my sights as well, and wanted to play college tennis for sure until I thought that I was ready to turn pro.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Let's go to another question. Mahi Patel wanted to know who has been your hardest opponent, or maybe opponents or situation. Maybe it's a match.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I actually don't know who my hardest opponent would be. I think the hardest situation would be definitely coming back from being injured, and the Australian swing was really tough for me, just getting used to playing matches again. But
I was gonna say it's that doctor that said you'll never play.
Yeah, I know.
pretty tough opponent.
That was a lot of different opponents through that.
Yeah. No, that's good. While I'm looking for another questions in the chat, guys, we have CiCi for a few more minutes. So if this is the time where you guys can feel free to message us in the chat to go over a few things. I guess Mahi also wanted to know, before a tournament, what is a good amount of warm-up time?
Oh, that's a good question. When I was younger, I did really long warm-ups. Even when I was starting with Tom when I was 15, we do like hour 15 warm-ups. And then, right now I probably do a 30-minute warm-up.
Okay. And is it light hitting? Do you do any sprints, jump ropes? Like, what is?
So usually one of the USTA fitness trainers is at the tournaments. Like in Australia, Satoshi, he's kind of my main fitness trainer right now. He and I do like a full warm up before I play. Like we do sprints. He like throws balls, I catch them, bands, everything like that after the warm up, before pre-match. But we do it a huge warm before the warm up, and then right before the match too.
Nice, it's really good. I hope you guys take notes of that. Ishan wanted to know, how do you balance school and tennis? That's
a great question. I definitely set aside time during the day, like at the end of the day, to make sure that
you're training like 12 hours a day. You're sleeping 8 hours a day. No,
I mean, I think there's definitely time during the day that, at the end of the day when I have time for school, and especially when I was in high school, in college, it's a little bit more flexible when I can, submit things. But in high school, when there were certain deadlines, I made sure to, if I was going to a tournament, I got ahead and, had those assignments completed so I didn't have to worry about it during a tournament, and just things like that, like trying to get ahead so I wouldn't feel pressured.
And how about when you were juniors and you were doing homeschool as well? Was it easy? Is it easier then, or is it easier now?
I think it's easier now for sure. Just because I feel like I can, do it on planes when I'm traveling to tournaments or things like that. And obviously in juniors, we traveled a bit too, but it was tough to manage it at such a young age, I think, back then. And I know some of you guys are probably homeschooled. It's definitely tough, and you guys are awesome for doing it. But I think it's important to find time during the day and just set aside time and make sure you're ahead before tournaments.
Nice. All right, guys, let's go. Last few questions. Who's got some last few questions? Armin, you raised your hand, so hopefully you have a question for us. Coach Stav wanted to know, I watched your video in USTA and the conference. What advice would you give being down in a match or playing someone who is seated higher than you?
I think, for the down in the match, to not really play the scoreline, just play point by point and just focus on yourself. If you're playing someone that's higher ranked or, seated high, I always just try and focus on myself and my game and not really think too much about the scoreline or my opponent. And it's definitely easier said than done, but just as much as you can.
Do you prepare the same for every match, regardless of every match is the same preparation?
Yeah, for sure.
I like that. All right. I have one more question before I go. Is there one more question from somebody else? Armin, he stepped up. How did you make the decision not to play college and go pro?
That's a good question. So I basically had a goal with my team that if I was ranked inside the top 100, if I got my ranking up that high, that I would feel like it was a good time to turn pro. And I felt, confident that it would make a good career. And so that's where I was at when I turned pro. And yeah, I thought it was a good decision at the time.
Yes. And so my last question is 2 parts. One is, where can people where can they follow you, get more information about you? You got a lot more new fans. And then the second part is, what advice do you have for them or for your younger self, if you could go back and give yourself some advice?
Oh, that's a great question. If I could go back, I think, probably just not procrastinate doing assignments before tournaments, because that was definitely the hardest thing for me. And just enjoy it as much as you can. I enjoyed it so much. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Work as hard as you can and enjoy it as much as you can. It's the advice that I think that I did when I was younger.
Thank you. And CiCi, where do people follow you? I know you have your Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook. I'm there.
All right, good. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know everyone appreciates. Thank you for those of you who joined as well. I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Stay healthy and
too.
And good luck. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Say hi to Tom for me, please.
Okay?
I
will, for sure.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.